chosen ones. Leather shoes, step on marbled stone. Voices cold as ice, hearts of stone. Every nod's a pact, every glance a knife. This is not a game, it's the way of life. All the bosses men, they never fall, standing tall behind the curtain's call. Loyal to the oath till the bitter end. This is how it goes with all the bosses men.
See, either you gotta be proud of who you are and fight for it, or you gotta be ashamed of it. It's obvious what I've done is obvious what I created. I'm not a jerk. If I drew a picture, I know I drew that picture. I created that. I know what I created, you know what I mean?
All the bosses men, they never fall, standing tall behind the curtain's call. Loyal to the oath till the bitter end. This is how it goes with all the bosses men.
All right. We are live once again with Louis Kasman. Hope everyone is doing good. Louis, how are you, man?
All right, Jesse, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
What's going on?
Not much, man. I don't know about where you're at, but it is hot where I am.
Yeah, it's very hot.
Yeah.
Well, it's very hot. New York, the whole area is crazy, crazy weather. Florida is just as bad. So what's up, Jess?
Nothing much, man. Here we are, Sunday again, another show. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I feel pretty good. I want you to check out this bottle of wine. I was going through some stuff, and I counted 8 bottles of this, but I'm going to crack it open probably Monday or Tuesday when I go out to dinner.
Let's check it out.
Can you see it?
I see it. Where did you tell me where you got this wine at?
Oh, John gave this to me. This is 1982 Petrus, and it's right over here. Yeah. So he gave me 8 bottles of it, and I looked it up in the last few days. It's from 1982, the Grandvin, and it's about $13,000 a bottle.
Mm.
Yeah. So, like I said, I have about 8 bottles of those. So I guess it's time to crack them open and drink them. I wish Peter was with me to drink it, because he knows wine. His son Peter. But
and that was a gift directly from John Gotti.
Yeah, that was a gift from one of the many gifts that he gave me. He gave me Erte. He gave me this wine.
What was the occasion?
You know what? Everybody used to gift him things, and he would go into the basement in the house in Howard Beach. He would say, you could never drink all this stuff. So he would give some to Junior. He would give some to me. And, I'm not a big drinker, but I was going through some stuff, and I saw this. I have a case of Opus, and I have this Petrus, and then John Jr. gave me a couple of bottles of that Erte. So I was just going through it, I guess, going through some old stuff.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. And
he gave you 1982. It's about $13,000 a bottle. So 750 ml. So it brings back the old days, the old times.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. 1982. That was a good year for John. I think he was doing pretty good at that time.
Yeah. Tommy Gambino was a wine expert, a wine aficionado, and he used to give John a ton of wine. In Tommy's house in Lido Beach, he must have had 100, 150 bottles of wine, but fine wine. And so Tommy was like a wine guy.
I've heard you mention John drank martinis. Did he also drink wine as well?
Yes, good wine. He liked good wine. He used to drink martinis. He liked gin martinis, like the Bombay Sapphire, ice cold, shake it up, ice cold. And he liked the shredded ice, not the cubes. So yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool, man. I'm glad you showed us that. Let's see that. Let me see that label one more time. Oh yeah.
Can you see it?
Uh-huh. And you say now that goes for like 13 grand a bottle?
Yeah, I looked it up and it's showing $13,000. So,
That's
but
pretty
every
cool, man.
year, every year has a different amount, and of course the contents in the bottle. It's a red Bordeaux, but there's of course there's different different years and different grades of it.
Right.
But, I don't know if I'll open it. I'll just save it. But what are you going to do? 8 bottles, a lot of wine for somebody that's not a drinker.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, let's see. We got about 80 people watching now, Lewis. I'm sure people are slowly joining. Let me go through the chat and welcome some people in. We've got Big Jim from Scranton. Thanks for being here, man. He's always a loyal watcher, loyal subscriber.
Yep. Thanks for being here as well.
Mickey Griggs. Hello, guys. Let's see who we got. The King's Son. Hey, guys. Looking forward to another great show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Bruno 67. What's good, everybody? Thanks for being here, man. Matthew Wells, what's up, everybody? Thanks for being here, man.
Make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss one of these shows. B. Bacala says, blessed Sunday, everyone. Sunday evening, fellas. God bless John Gotti.
Yeah, I'll drink to that. Jess, I was thinking.
Rocco wants to join you. A glass of that wine, Lewis.
You got it, Rocco. I wonder if anybody understands what it is to be in solitary confinement for over 10 years. In solitary. And then towards the end, get cancer, head, neck, and throat cancer with little to zero medical treatment.
Yeah.
Imagine being locked up and not being sick.
Yeah, no, I couldn't imagine that. And take the cancer away. I mean, just a lot of people would go insane. People, I was watching something the other day that was talking about that, and people just, they lose their mind. They go insane. Yeah.
It's, when I think about it now, it's crazy that, we live in a country. This is America. And, I could see, back then, the FBI and everybody, it was always go after the, gangsters, go after the mafia. But when you do the look back and you see, this whole thing with these MS-13 and immigration and these spies and the World Trade Center. All right, I could see those people being in an ADX or in a level 6 environment. But now, back then when John was locked up, to put someone in solitary for 10 years, and keep in mind, today gangsters, bosses, wise guys, they go in for compassionate release. And some of the judges now are buying that because they're not really sharp judges like the old time judges from back in the day in the Eastern District. You couldn't fool those judges with compassionate release. And John would never, ever go in for compassionate release. Nor back in those days would anybody in John's crew or anybody in Gambino family would ask for compassionate release. Never happened. Never happened. Now you got wise guys, Judge, I need compassionate release. I got cancer. And they're letting these people out. Back in those days, that never took place. Never, ever took place.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you've even spoke about, towards the end of John's life, you was able to get him like into a hospital facility. And then after a few days, he just said, I want to go back. I don't want this.
Yep. He was there about 5 days when we got him out of Springfield and got him into a local hospital. And Springfield, Missouri is a big hospital town. And, they couldn't fix him. He was so sick, but they were giving him dignity. They were cleaning him up. They were giving him better medication, better healthcare treatment, better staffing. And after 4 or 5 days, he says, Louis, he called me up one night. He says, I don't want to stay here anymore. Get me back. Call up D. Wampler, the lawyer from down there, and get me back into Springfield. And I waited another day. So it was a total of almost 6 days, 5 to 6 days that he wound up in that good hospital out of Springfield. But he was so sick at that point, Jesse, it didn't matter. It was all, his tongue, his throat, his neck. It was just all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's how he died. He died in a cell. Died on his own vomit. He was throwing up, and he choked to death. They didn't have him elevated. They didn't have him intubated. Nothing. That's just how he died. Terrible.
Yes, it is. Cosmos writes, they had him cuffed while he was dying. That's brutal.
Cuffed, and they were taking pictures. They had back in those days, they had those video cameras, and they were monitoring him on a video camera 24/7.
Yeah, like they say, you've said it. John Gotti Jr. said it. He walked it to the gate, and not many guys would do that.
Yep, exactly right. He sure did walk it to the gate. And you know how he survived? He survived through his mail. Like he used to get a lot of mail, and that's how he survived. And certain people he would write back to, even people he didn't know, strangers, but they were like continually write to him. And I have a lot of that mail, but that's how he lived through his mail.
Yeah, I know you spoke about that before, and I know in some videos, I'm not sure where he was at on this particular video, but he talks about getting a lot of mail from all over the country. And one girl had wrote him doing something for her school, like a project or something, and he responded to her. But one thing that I thought was interesting was you mentioned where was it, in Illinois or wherever he was at?
Marion?
Yeah, I think you said a lot of the local people was bringing him stuff and writing him letters.
No, that when he left Marion, and they shipped him to Springfield.
Springfield.
Yeah, all the people. When I say all the people, a lot of people from that Springfield, Missouri area, they would go by the hospital when he was there, and they would drop off candies, cookies, sauce, all kinds of food products, flowers. Although the government, the BLP wouldn't give it to him, but the lobby was just loaded with stuff from strangers, just that people knew that he finally was getting some sort of medical treatment.
Yeah.
And he made me take the cards, and wherever I could respond and send thank yous, he wanted me to send thank yous to these people. If we knew where it came from.
Right. Rocco says that Pete Gotti tried to get compassionate release and got denied. What would John think of that?
He wouldn't have thought too much of it.
Let's see. We got about a little bit over 100 people watching. Muggsy with $2. Thank you for that, man. He says, drop the link so I can send Lewis packing. I don't want Lewis to go packing yet. Thanks for the $2, though. You know, I was thinking, Lewis, in that intro, you know, there's a lot of different pictures of you, you know, with John and going to the courthouse and that sort of thing. There's a picture in there with you're standing behind Bobby Boriello. It's in the intro. I've got that picture right there. I wanted to ask you about him. You know, what was your relationship with him, and what did John think of him as well?
John loved the guy. I was pretty close with him. You know, we were good friends, and Junior loved him. You know, he was very, very close to Junior. Yeah, and that was, you know, that's that way of life. That's that life. You know, you're here today, and you know, in the way they killed him by his house, and it was just it was crazy. You know, and when I do the look back, like anybody could be killed. It didn't matter how close you were to anybody. You know, I was young then, and I really was deluded to the fact that, you know, everybody was in such fear of John and had such great respect for him. But me, his son, Jackie knows, any of us could have been killed at any time, and life would have went on. Yeah, maybe John would have killed the guy that killed one of us, but you know, I'm old now and wiser, and I realize that you know, there's no respect in the life. Yeah. And at any time you could be eliminated or be killed, you know, and everybody will go to the funeral. You know, oh, what a great guy. Oh, what a shame. And then tomorrow, you know, just life goes on. But, you know, now when I do the look back and I see how they gas pipe took out Boriello. And I remember being on the visit and seeing and visiting with John the next day. And it was a pretty quiet visit, but, you know, just like life went on, you know, and I guess that's how it is in the mob. You know, Junior was very affected by his death, you know, very, very affected. And so was Senior to a degree, but, you know, life goes on. Hey, Jess, you see this thing in here from the King's Son, 714?
Let's check it out.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement. Could you read that?
The King's Son. It's 1988. You're on a train headed to work. You hear people on the train saying they just heard John Gotti was killed that morning. What is your next move? Do you go to work? Are you in danger?
So the King's Son, that's a hypothetical question because obviously John didn't get killed. But if I was to answer that question in the hypothetical, I would have to say, what's my next move? I would look for Junior and see what our next move is at that point. But yeah, I would think that the people closest to John at that point would be in danger. Do I go to work? I don't know. I probably go to the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club, or go to Junior, or go find Junior, or Jackie knows and see what's up. But now that I look back, you know, Jackie would have fell into line with who was in charge. Junior, of course, that's blood. That's his father. So I guess to go back to that question, I would have had to rely on Junior to find out what the reality is. But people like D'Amico or Scars, you know, they just go on, you know, and who's the next boss? Who's running the show now? Okay, we love him now. You know, now I realize that.
Yeah.
That's a good question, the King's Son. Excellent question.
Well, that goes back to what you just said about John's reaction to Bobby Boriello being taken out. You know, it's kind of business as usual. You know, it's a cold existence. You know, it's kind of a normal everyday thing. You know, so and so's gone, and you know who's collecting his money. You know, and the it keeps rolling, it keeps going on.
Who's taking over his stuff. But when I look back at it now, think of the balls that Gas Pipe had to have to take Boriello out.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing was John was so feared, and I mean feared, but there's always somebody, there's always that one person that you never would expect. But you do the look back and you look at that Lucchese family. They were treacherous, 10 times worse than Genovese. They were just treacherous people up until the end. Yeah. Liars. They were snakes. You could not do business with that Lucchese family. And as years went by, it only got worse, with that Joe Caridi and that whole group. Just bad. Legitimate people could not be involved with them.
Yeah. Well, you yourself had connections with the Lucchese family. Is that right?
Well, I had connections to the extent that my friend Phil Basile, who was a close associate with Paul Vario, who was a very strong captain in the Lucchese family. But Vario, with Jimmy Burke and John Gotti, they were very, very close. And once Vario died, the other people started to abuse Phil Basile. Phil Basile was the nightclub guy all over Long Island, all over. And they were abusing him. And it just goes to show you, you look, it's all the same, Jesse. You look at the guy, Hal Irving from Crystal Geyser. That was Jackie's guy. Jackie's gone now. Hal's gone now. Who knows who's being abused there? You look at Carl Lizzer Industries. He's getting abused. Well, he's dead. So it's just, if you were John Gotti, you weren't abused. He was a very unusual boss. Very unusual. Like I said, you made a deal with him. That was the deal. He wasn't looking for 5 cents more. He was very unusual for a boss. Castellano would take the gold out of your teeth.
Puppet Master says, "What's up, Lewis? What's up, Jesse?" Puppet Master, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
Not Jimmy 2 times. John Gotti bought me a candy bar when I was 11. He was in front of me at the candy store on Mulberry. True story.
Did you save the candy bar? I hope you saved it like I saved the wine. You know what that candy bar is worth?
It's got to be worth $1,000 now.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I thought that was just back to Bobby Boriello real quick. I just thought that was interesting. You and I spoke briefly before this, and you was explaining, John Gotti's reaction to that. You said he was locked up at the time, but just, it was kind of like business as usual. And I think that speaks, somebody like John was so entrenched with that life and that lifestyle that it's like, maybe like to me, that sort of thing would be a sort of a big deal. But I think, to people like John and other people in that life, it's another day at the office.
Yeah, no, Jesse, don't misunderstand me. I mean, he was bothered by it because I could see by his facial expressions and his body motions, folding of his hands, and you could see different things. So you could see the water boiling, but that's to the extent that you would see anything other than that. Muggsy said he'll give us 100. Muggsy, listen to me, Muggsy. You don't have enough money for Jesse or for me. But I appreciate you. Don't donate the money to like the ASPCA, somebody that likes dogs and cats. Give that $100 to somebody who has Cash App that likes dogs and cats, and you know who that person is, Muggsy. Yeah, John was a man's man. Pinty Studios, 100% right.
Lewis, do you stay in contact with anyone from those days?
Few people, not many. You got to understand, my whole life was John. Anyone that I was communicating with was only on behalf of John or because they were around John and I needed to speak with them. Jackie D'Amico's gone. Who else? Mikey Scars is gone. So it's I don't really and I don't really want to stay in touch with it. I have nothing to say to anybody, nothing at all. Hey Muggsy, we appreciate that $2, but we're going to give it away or send it back to you because you need it more than Jesse needs it. Jesse don't need your $2, but good looking out. Yeah, this thing with Pete Gotti putting in for a compassionate release. Pete was sick, and John was gone. If John was alive, Pete Gotti would have never put in for no compassionate release. Rocco, you know what John would have thought of that. Yeah, Bobby Boriello was a very, very capable man. Very capable. I was young then, so if I wanted to go out in the city, Bobby used to take me and my friends.
Let's see what we got here. We've got about 162 people watching, Lewis. Everyone, be sure to hit that like button. Let's see what we got.
Here's one here. Did A-Light ever pass orders to me? No. A-Light didn't pass orders to nobody. A-Light took orders. He never gave me messages from Gotti Sr. A-Light was not Gotti Sr.'s bodyguard. You guys got to get all this stuff out of your head about A-Light. A-Light created a narrative for himself. He's nothing what he says. You want to believe that? You believe it.
Big Jim says, when Junior was released the final time from jail, he claims he was broke. I just don't see that being true.
No, that's not true. That's a complete lie. A complete lie. Factually speaking, a complete lie. Junior was with my father in the MCC Manhattan, and he told Bassiano, and he told him what he was going to do. And that's not true. Another lie.
Tin Pill TV says, Jesse, why do you put up with that arrogance shown to your subs? What arrogance is that?
Yeah, he don't know what he's talking about. No, Joe Caridi didn't ever abuse me. Joe Caridi, the underboss of the Lucchese family, he was abusing the Basiles, Frank Basile and Roger Basile. I was just in the way. He never abused me. Whatever I had to get, I got from those Basiles. He abused Pete. Remember, you're not abusing me. He abused Pete Gotti because Pete Gotti was a mutt, and they had no respect for Pete Gotti.
Michael says, what do you think about Joe Watts?
I think Joe Watts is a killer and a tough guy.
Sean wants to know, Lewis, was there ever a time that John actually liked Sammy?
No. There was nothing to like about Sammy.
So you think it was more or less, bringing him in was more or less a business arrangement?
Well, once Frankie DeChico got killed when that car was blown up, if that doesn't happen, there's no Gravano at that point. Because DeChico was the real deal. Frankie DeChico was a real underboss. It would have been a different day for the Gambino family. No, here, Tin Pail says, no, I know you're not Angel or Vicky because you ain't that nice looking. No, you're one ugly motherfucker. That's for sure, Tin Pail. You got to put your head under a pillow. Angel and Vicky are gorgeous and beautiful compared to you. You're like a creature. Hide that face.
Pinty Studios Live says, Lewis, I heard a story about Gotti visiting Sophia Loren in the sandy beaches of Florida. Can you please describe how that went?
Yeah, I had a home on Williams Island, which is in Aventura, Florida, and John would go there once in a while with me and Joe Watts, Jackie Giordano, who was known as Jackie the actor. He was a real prick, nasty guy, a captain, and Jackie D'Amico. And one time we were there, Sophia was there and Whitney was there. Yeah, so that's how that happened. It wasn't planned or anything, but that's how that happened.
G Shippy says, do you know any Gambino guys in Jersey?
Nah. Here's William Zachariah. Hey, Lewis. What's up, William? Yeah, you should have saved that candy bar.
Not Jimmy Two Times says, I still believe Sammy knew Frankie was going to be hit and maybe even helped.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's how devious that guy was. I don't think Sammy lost any sleep over it. I hate to refer to him as Sammy. I don't think that puke lost any sleep over it. No, he was happy.
The King's Son with 199. Thank you for that. Lewis, will you ever write a book about your life?
Anything's possible, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But Netflix and Fox News are doing something again on John, and so we're going to participate in that. Myself and American Made and Jesse. So yeah, that should be something coming up within the next year. I don't know when, I don't know dates or times, but there's going to be a big special, and it's going to be the truth being told. Yeah,
that's going to be something big, Lewis.
Yeah, this William Zachariah. Let's talk.
I know you've addressed this before, Lewis. I've seen William Zachariah, his comments. He's wrote a lot of comments on a lot of the videos. He says, what was your reasoning behind flipping? You were only looking at a misdemeanor.
William, I wish it was only a misdemeanor, but that's another show, which we'll do exclusively on that subject. But it wasn't a misdemeanor. It was Junior was caught on an overhear at Raybrook and elsewhere. Hey, Roscoe, I still got friends. Yeah, I got real friends now, not fake friends. See, those days, with the exception of John, those were all fake friends. Now you have real friends.
Tony says, hey, Lewis, what was Danny Marino like?
He was all right. John never liked him. Danny was always afraid that he was going to get whacked by John. John Jr. hated him. But John liked Danny Marino's son. He was a semi-pro golfer, and he really liked Danny Marino's son. But John didn't have no love for Danny Marino. But he was a big earner. He was a captain, big earner. I had no problems with him. But Danny was happy to be left alone. Yeah, William Zachariah, what facts do you have, brother? Put it out here. Maybe you know something I don't know.
He says, I'm only giving you questions that you like, Lewis.
No, Zachariah, you could give me any questions you want. Jesse, don't spoon feed me. You can give me any kind of questions you want. You should know that if you're watching the show often. This is American made. This isn't that other show that has FBI agents on. This is American made. We don't put FBI agents on this show.
And sometimes I'm trying to get to new and original questions. There maybe somebody missed a show here or there, but there are questions that you already answered 5 or 6 times before.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got. Keith says, pound that like button.
Yeah, Danny D'Angelo, do I really think Joe Watts was an informant? I don't know. Now, I don't think so. Show me the papers, and maybe I have another answer for you. Watts was a stone cold killer. Killer of the worst thing. Oh. And had millions of dollars. So I don't know what the story is.
New York fan says John Gotti wanted to replace Frankie with another guy from Brooklyn, and Gravano was the least loyal to Paul.
Gravano wasn't loyal to anybody, and John was okay with Frankie DeChico.
Tommy says, Lewis, let Muggsy up. He said he knows more about the mob and John Gotti than you do. Please don't let him think he's right.
No one knows more about John Gotti than me and Junior. Nobody. But you could bring it on, Muggsy. You go in the chat, ask any questions you want. I've never been one not to answer. I'm not other shows that smile and let's have some tea. Whatever you ask me, I'll answer.
DC says, I know you said you had a place in Woodbury. That's why I say, and I appreciate your loyalty to John, rarely seen.
Thank you, DC. 100%. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. X says, question. Hello, guys. I missed asking a question last week. Did John Gotti have a child out of wedlock? There was chatter between John and his brother, One-Eyed Pete.
The recording that you heard in jail, yeah, that's what you're referring to. I guess we have to stand by that recording. I never met any child out of wedlock. But I'm not saying it's not possible. John Gotti never had a stockbroker. He never invested in the stock market, DC.
The King's Son says, when you brought John into the garment center with you, were your competitors no longer your competitors?
Absolutely. They became my friends. Friends. Because remember, Tommy Gambino and Joe Gallo, which was Joanne Gallo's son, they wanted to open up the same business that I opened up for John. So when I went up to the garment center, Joanne Gallo Jr. could not open up that business anymore. So that was a bit of a problem for Joe Gallo. And there was no love lost between me and Joe Gallo. But Joe Gallo was directly with Tommy Gambino because Tommy was very close to his father. So yeah, so that was a little bit of a issue for about an hour. Then that issue went away. But there was always, Joe Gallo never really went out of his way to do anything to help John or me up there. It was always forced, or we would just take it. But Joe Gallo was not a fan of Gotti, Joe Gallo Jr. The restaurant Campagnolo in Florida lasted about a year. Yeah, I did know Mike Papadillo and the Papadillo brothers in the garment district. They were Mike Papadillo was murdered by gas pipe. Yeah. I never said Junior. Whatever. You're an obsessed sick person. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Michelle with $9.99. Thank you for that. I like how Scars makes it out that Watts was scared of him.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. I think Scars was scared of Jack Garcia, his new friend. Yeah, Italian Stallion. Lewis, Angel said John used to wear gray flannel. That's true. He was old school, and he just liked that cologne gray flannel. So that's very true. And yeah, everybody's got their likes and dislikes.
William, ask your questions, man. That's all, you know.
I lied about Michael? Zaccario? You tell me how I lied about Michael. Michael, if you're talking about Scars, his actions and behavior speak for themselves. I don't want to devote any more time to him. It's not worth it.
He says he knows more about Cosa Nostra than you do, Lewis.
About Cosa Nostra? I give him that, but he doesn't know more about the boss than me.
Yeah, I mean, you've never claimed to know everything about Cosa Nostra.
Exactly,
you know?
Right. Exactly right. But when he laid in jail, when Pete let him lay in jail like a dog, I try to help and I try to look out for him.
DeGosta says, if you had to guess, Lewis, how much money was Gotti worth?
A lot of money. A lot of money.
Jeannie and Quack Quack got Mike Coro to help them with their drug racket. Did they ever approach you as well to help them?
No. And they destroyed Mike Coiro. Mike Coiro was Jeannie's lawyer, Dom Cataldo's lawyer, Jimmy Burke's lawyer. Mike Coiro was the premier mob lawyer during that era for all different families. And Angelo absolutely destroyed that man. That man did 8 years in jail. And the only one, when he came home, the only one that looked out for him and helped him was Jojo Carrazzo, not Pete Gotti. Jojo Carrazzo.
Rocco says, so I take it you don't like Jack Garcia.
It's not that I like him or I don't like him. I know the man, but I certainly wouldn't go on a show with him. You know, you got to understand, Jack Garcia, he retired from the FBI. He was either going to retire or be let go. He liked the life. He liked wearing Rolex watches. He liked being that wise guy nonsense, and he forgot who he was with that whole Greg De Palma thing. So it was either continue to do what you're doing, or you got to retire because we're going to fire you. So, you know, Jack's from 15 years ago, you know, and listen, I don't knock the guy. The guy had a job to do, but I certainly wouldn't put him on my show. Not when I profess to have such strong feelings about the boss. I wouldn't, you know, it's a bit hypocritical. There's a lot of people you could put on a show before you put, you know, an FBI agent on the show, especially one like Garcia. But, you know, who am I to say? Everybody does what's good for them.
You said that he was possibly looking to get fired. What was the issue going on?
The FBI, from what was told to me, he got too close, and he was spending money he shouldn't have been spending and doing things he shouldn't have been doing. This is what the rumors were. I don't know whether it's true or not. So they pulled him, and he didn't want to be pulled because he loved being in that life. And he's a non-Italian. You know, he's a Cuban guy. Mm-hmm. He's a non-Italian guy. So he got in over his head. He was drowning. He weighed 500 pounds at one point. You know, so he was on a verge of some sort of a mental breakdown. You know. So yeah, I mean, I physically never met him, although I spoke with him multiple times. But you know, it was time for him to go, and the FBI wanted him out. And you know, he put a lot of people in jeopardy. You know, a lot of people.
Yeah, I know he was really close because I've heard him say that I think Greg De Palma proposed him to be made. You know, yeah. Which obviously.
And he wanted to go through with that.
Yeah, it speaks to how close he was. Yeah, and I think he did want to.
Could you imagine an FBI agent being made? That's when I guess again, just common sense. I guess that's when the Bureau had to put a bag over his head. Yeah, Rocco, I don't like him or dislike him. I'm just telling you the facts about Jack Garcia.
Jack Falcone. Sean says, hey, Lewis, I believe you, but how does this Mark Caputo say he knows John so well and you never heard of him? Is this guy a fraud?
I don't want to call him a fraud or not call him a fraud. You know, I go back with John 100 years. You know, you guys understand what I'm saying. I don't remember him, but that doesn't mean he wasn't around, because you got to understand, back in those days, there were so many people around, you know, and you know, John didn't like if I would associate with a lot of different people. So he could have been around. I don't know. I don't recall seeing him. I don't recall his face, you know.
Detroit Siggy says, John Gotti was a two-bit thief. He was never an earner, simply a lightning rod for the New York Times.
No, that's not true. John Gotti was always an earner. We're talking about John Gotti Sr. now, the boss. And John Gotti Jr. was an earner too. You know, you got to give the devil, you know, you got to give the devil its due.
Robert says, yeah, it's good to see your loyalty to John.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Zakara. I'm not saying whether he had a kid out of wedlock or he didn't have a kid out of wedlock. What's the difference 20 some odd years later? He's a legend. He
Yeah,
is who he
and
is. And if he had one, good luck to him. I'm not disputing it, but I'm not giving it credence either.
right.
It doesn't change who he was, what he was. You know, someone on here, I forget, said something, referred to me as doing drugs. I never did drugs in my life. I had a kid brother who died of a drug overdose in Florida. So I was never a drug abuser, ever. Never did drugs. And do you think John Gotti Sr. or Jr. would want someone as close to them as me being a drug person? Never did drugs. So, you know, let's keep it real.
Shannon asked, do you think John's wife knew or suspected that John killed Paul?
I have no idea. She'd have to be pretty foolish not to. And she was a pretty smart lady.
Robert says, oh, and rest in peace to the Hulkster.
Yeah, that's true.
Hulk Hogan just passed away.
Do I believe Joe Watt's prophet? Produce the 302s. Show me that he profited.
What's the reason the Gambino family didn't fight back when the Lucchese family under gas pipe were killing its members?
There was retaliation. There was retaliation. Maybe there were no bodies, but there was retaliation. You know, I'm just going to say this. You don't hurt somebody that John Gotti is close to or loves. It may not be today, and it may not be tomorrow, but you're going to go. That's how John Gotti Sr. was.
William keeps saying that I need to get to his questions, but I don't see his questions.
No. I'll answer any questions here. I have no problem. Again, you may not like my answers, but I'm going to answer them.
Noah says, were you upset when John called you pee-pee brain on his prison tapes?
He never called me pee-pee brain on his prison tapes. Never. Listen to the tapes.
Jason asked, Lewis, did you tell the FBI that Gotti's operation brought in between $500,000 and $1 million per month in cash from construction and garment rackets, extortion, loans, gambling, and drugs?
I didn't have to tell them. They knew what was coming in. There were multiple confidential informants. Multiple. People you wouldn't believe that were informants were informing. Zacaro, identify yourself. Email Jesse on American Made.
American Made Channel at Gmail.
Right. You email him and we'll chit chat. No, Roscoe, stop being so silly.
Brad says, Lewis, you're a very bitter creature who abused Mr. Gotti's kindness, just like many did. You inflate your position to make you seem important. However, in truth, you were nothing but a gopher who never knew his place.
I'm sorry you feel that way. I detect a little bit of jealousy. So you're probably, one of the jerk-offs that hung around by the club. I'm sorry you feel that way. Because I'll just say this to you. Whoever has the king's ear has the power, my friend. Did you ever see his house? Did you ever go to his house? Did you ever have dinner with him? Is he the godfather to your child? Did he ever make your child a baby party? Did you ever celebrate Christmas with him? Did you go on vacation with him? No. But I did.
Yeah, I don't think it can be disputed, Lewis, that
No.
you were
This is
close with
jealous. This is
John.
jealous. These are just the jealous nobodies that come out of the woodwork.
William again says Lewis, the FBI, when he was great friends with them, getting $12K a month and getting him out of jail.
Well, let me tell you this, William Zaccario. I was never great friends with them. They didn't like me, and I didn't like them. And your $12K a month is wrong. It was more. So don't believe everything you read, and don't believe everything my sister says. Yeah, this Joe Calcicaro. Yeah, I did. I spent 9 days in Palm Beach County Jail for failing to make a payment. Yes. And Angel does not have FBI agents on her show yet, but who knows what she'll do.
Mitch Flip says, did Lewis know Sammy lied in testimony about driving past the body of Paul and Tommy? The block was too narrow, and with cars parked and the bodies in the streets, they would have got stuck there.
Yeah, I did know about that. I don't think he told the truth about too many things. See here, Lewis, do I regret being involved with the mob by Keith Dway? For me, it was all about John. So I looked the other way. It's funny, I said to Jesse the other day, when I do the look back and I realize how insane my life was, but I wouldn't change it because of my friendship and the kind of father John was to me and the kind of person he was to me. So, but when I do the look back, yeah, it's all scary, and my family suffered from it.
Yeah, I think from just talking to you and stuff, I think maybe years ago you just looked at it like, John is a friend of mine. I think all these years later you look back and see, it wasn't just you're a friend of John's, but you were actually, involved, like the question says, involved in the mob, as an associate, or just because of your position as a friend to John, it puts you in a lot of danger, at that time that I don't think you realized, at the time.
You're right. I may have realized it, but I didn't accept it because he was so feared and so respected in New York and really and all over the country. But now that listen, you could get run over by a bus or a taxi cab. That's how treacherous that life is, still is.
Yeah.
My family did suffer, Keith.
Why is Lewis so obsessed with John Sr.? It's kind of strange.
It may be strange to you, damn funk, because maybe you have no loyalty and you have no respect and you have no friends. But as long as I'm alive and breathing, I'll always speak about his legacy and who he really was. Because all you 200 people, you don't know who he was. You don't have a clue who this man was.
Yeah, I think there's a large audience, across the country and across the world that are interested in John Gotti. That he's the whole mafia, John Gotti included, is an interesting topic. I think that's why we're all here. And you were somebody close to John.
Did I ever deal with Vinny Butch? No, but I was very close to his dad. And Vinny Butch was a good guy. Is a good guy, I guess. And John Sr. liked him a lot.
Roscoe, why did you flip, Lewis, on someone you say was a father to you? Was it because you couldn't do 10 years? You'd have been out in a few years, for goodness sake.
How was I getting 10 years? How do you know I was getting 10 years? Come on. Make sense when you talk. Don't talk shit.
Let's find a few more questions here, Lewis. We got 242 people watching the live. Be sure to hit that like button and donate to the channel if you can. Jimmy says, Lewis, who would you say is the most powerful or feared Gambino guy still on the street?
Well, I would say right now, Gene Gotti's. I don't know if he has any role, but I would say he's to be feared. Johnny Caniglia should be feared. These are real life tough guys that go back to the 70s. These are real deal people.
Lewis, did you know Benny Geritano?
No.
William, just because Lewis didn't answer the question doesn't mean he doesn't know. There may be areas that he might not want to get into out of respect.
Exactly right. What's the purpose? What's the purpose? I don't want to talk about gossip. Let's talk about what was and what is, and the type of person and the different experiences. That's what's important for people to know. Yeah, this Noah, who knows, could be Angel or Junior. I taped conversations of bosses for the FBI. Not true. Not true. What boss?
Puppet Master says 216 people. Keep it up. We've got about 254 right now. Thank all of y'all for being here. Let's keep going with some good questions.
Zaccaro again comes in. He has letters that John sent Michael. I guess he's referring to scars. There's not boxes of them. Stop lying. I have a lot of the letters that Scars sent them too. In fact, we're going to put them. I'll put them up one day. Letters that Scars would send.
Michelle says, Lewis, who were some of the biggest garbage companies out there when you were with John?
There was so many of them in the city. So many of them.
I'm pretty sure Lewis helped Gotti's money vanish into the enemy's hands. That I know.
Then you know more than me.
Brad says Jesse Kasman has a personality similar to Gravano's. That's why they hated each other so much, because they are both very, very sneaky.
I'm nothing like Gravano on any level. So I take issue with that, my friend. Nothing. And here, did I leave witness protection? I was never in witness protection. Never went. And you got to get your facts straight, you haters. All you haters, get your facts straight.
William wants you to post some of those letters.
It's no problem. No problem. When I'm ready. I don't work for you, William. When I'm ready, I'll do what I have to do. Why don't you post some of those letters that you say you got from Scars? Post them. You know, just to make a comment, Scars' son, that Mikey Jr., what a nice kid he is. What a nice kid. His mother raised a nice kid, nice young man.
Tin Pail, you mentioned something earlier about Lewis being disrespectful to viewers and subscribers. But it goes both ways, man. You can't be disrespectful to Lewis and expect him to be respectful back. I mean, I have nothing against Tin Pail TV, but it works both ways.
Yeah.
William says, ask you about the 12,000 and how close he was with the FBI in the beginning. When he wound up on everybody. Now we don't like the FBI because they hate him.
I was never close to the FBI. I don't know if the FBI hates me or doesn't hate me. I really don't care. So get over it, William.
Roscoe says you were assigned to wash money, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, if you say so, you know more than me.
Brad says, one day you're speaking highly of Scars and he's a good guy, and then spends a whole episode running him down. Which is it? Lewis, you got no credibility.
So don't watch. I said what I said about Scars. I stand by it. Sometimes you'll learn different things as time goes by. And obviously I did. What do I think of Vinny Artuso? He's a scumbag, but he's dead. He's a mafia heaven. Let him rest in peace.
Timothy says, is it true that if Senior would have beat the government in the last trial, that they couldn't charge him again on those charges?
That's correct. It's called double jeopardy. I never try to hurt Mikey Scars, just keeping it real and telling the truth. So all is this love affair you have, Zakara. Obviously, you could be Mikey Scars, because, you're saying too many things. So whatever it is, it is. No. It's nothing personal. You live and learn. And that's true. Tommy Gambino was married to Tommy Lucchese's daughter, Frances. Absolutely true. Here's Keith says, a Jewish kid from Belmore involved with the mafia. I wasn't from Belmore. I was from Merrick. I grew up in Merrick, Keith. And it wasn't the mafia. It was John. But yeah, John was the head of the mafia. I guess it is what it is.
Barry says, who was one of the most dangerous shooters in the Gotti crew?
I guess that Caniglia. He was a bad guy, Caniglia.
Not Jimmy Two Times says, just ignore William. He's hijacking the whole show.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to him. You know, he's a loser. You know, he's just one of these YouTube losers. It's okay though. It's true though. The king was deaf in one ear. So I knew which ear was the good ear, but you don't know that, Roscoe. But you're right. He was deaf in one ear. Yeah, John used to get complaints about Junior and that crew with A-Light and all that, but you know, it served the purpose, I suppose, back then.
Lewis, what did you think of Frankie Lucasio's son?
Yeah, he was a good guy, Tory. Big Journer with the phone cards back then. Good guy though, I liked him. Here's one from Tony Vega about Louis Didone. Yeah, Louis Didone, he was from Lucchese's. He was a very good guy. Very good guy. That was the one Lucchese you could do business with. And yeah, he was close to John too. I like Louis Didone.
Lewis, what do you think about Senior's comment about Jews in Marion?
I think you have to realize when you're locked up 24/7 and he finally gets a visit from his family, and so he's angry. You know, he speaks in terms that he normally wouldn't speak in, or uses words he normally wouldn't use because of his frustration and anger at that point. So yeah, so that was some of those visits were very difficult for the family, especially with Vicky, because Vicky used to go and bring the kids and stuff, and you know, John had a lot of anger issues at that point. See this Trey Farris, 1999. What'd he say? You want to read that, Jess?
Let me find it.
8 o'clock.
Trey Ferris, 1999. Thank you for that, man. I've had the privilege of hearing your story, Lewis. I grew up on the farm in West Texas. My grandfather admired John Gotti while being a farmer. He would have loved John if he had the chance to meet him back in that time.
Hey, Trey, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that, Trey.
And I really do. Thank you. Thank you. You're a classy guy the way you presented it, Trey.
Yeah, and that's like I said earlier, man. That's what's so interesting about John. You know, we've kind of got lost in the weeds a little bit with a lot of these questions, but you know, what is it about a guy, you know, that appeals to someone in Texas or even, you know, where I'm at? You know, it's just he's got this broad appeal and interest, you know, that people find fascinating. And it's just an interesting lifestyle. And John was an interesting person. It just speaks to his appeal.
Yeah, that's true.
You said earlier that people in Springfield, local people were reaching out to him and stuff. That just says a lot about his appeal to people, even today. Butler Properties says, "Hey, Lewis, would John Sr. ever get complaints about John Jr.'s crew?"
Yep, he did. He certainly did.
Bo says, "You and your sister should have a YouTube reunion show."
No, not happening. Oh, here's one. Do I miss dating Vicky? I blew that one. What a sweetheart. Yeah, I could have had Vicky. I could have had Angel. But that's all in the past. Yeah, Vicky loved me.
Roscoe says, "Do you realize how creepy you come across, Lewis, wanting to marry your self-adopted sister? You were saying that last week."
Why? Tommy Gambino married his cousin. Right? Didn't Mr. Gambino, the old timer, marry his cousin? She's only my adopted sister. Not my. But she has cats. She has too many cats in the house, Angel. And I hate cats. So we'd have to whack the cats. I don't know who would we call, Jesse, to whack the cats? Maybe Junior, maybe A-Light will whack the cats.
Yeah, he probably would.
Yeah.
Common Sense says, "I have a question. Last show you claimed the only time you took the stand was against Vinny Artuso, but that isn't true. You also claimed you refused to testify against any Gotti. That is also a lie."
Common Sense. The only person I ever testified in court was Vinny Artuso. And there were multiple other cooperators and overhears and wiretaps. I never walked into another courtroom, ever, and testified against anyone. So I urge you, before you say things that aren't true, check your facts.
Muggsy with $2. "Mark was with John from the early 80s till he went away."
Like I said, he could be. I never met him, or I don't remember.
Thanks for the $2, Muggsy.
Just I don't understand something. If I don't agree with what someone says or my facts are different, why do they get so angry? There's no one here that knows John Gotti Sr. the way I did. So they don't have to agree with me. But unless they could produce, rather than hate and be jealous, just produce a fact. Dispute what I'm saying factually. I'm open to that. But you can't. None of you can. Lee Cole, he's got to go with Angel. Lee Cole is Angel's buddy. I wouldn't drop him a link. When they drop me a link, I'll drop him a link. That's Angel's sweetheart.
Tommy, I'll try to work on that, man. Sorry about that. He says he can hear the mouse. It's taken away from a great interview.
Oh, okay.
Lewis, we've got about 250 people. We've been going a little over an hour and 20 minutes. You want to get to a couple more and
Yeah.
wrap it up eventually. We'll see if we got a couple
somebody
more.
brought up the garment center. From what I understand, there's not much garment center left because everything is manufactured out of the United States now. So what it was years ago with Tommy Gambino, it's not that way anymore. William Zaccaro, I'm glad I'm in your head, buddy. Let's just keep it that way. I like that. I like punishing you.
Common Sense says you still never answered when you began cooperating for the government, which your alleged handler says began in 1994 and then again resumed after prison release in 1998, then wore a wire in 2006.
Common Sense. Not true. Not true. And my handler never said that. So that's not true.
Bo said John would turn Angel's internet off if he was alive.
Angel would not be on the internet if John was alive. And I'm surprised Angel is still doing it with her Uncle Jeannie being out.
Roscoe says that you denied that you stole money from the Gottis.
I don't even know what you're talking about, Roscoe. Stole money from the Gottis. Everybody stole money from the Gottis. If you listen to the Gottis, I had no reason to steal any money from the Gottis. Why would I steal money from the Gottis? Well, whatever. It's all good.
Muggsy, $2. Mark was at the Red Doors 7 days a week, 15 hours a day.
If you say so. Didn't he have a job? Didn't he have a family? What was he doing at the Red Door? Yeah, you're right. That Lee Cole's got to stop kissing my sister's ass. Well, he's got no credibility. The other guy chased him. Here's this guy, Aaron, $20 super sticker.
What's the time on that one, Lewis?
8:24.
Oh, I'm way behind. Let's see.
See it?
Aaron Blaylock, $20 super sticker. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Scott said Lewis was John's wedding planner. I sure was. I did everything for Junior. As much as I could do, I did for him. And John Sr. entrusted that wedding to me and Tommy Gambino. I wonder why. How come? How come?
No Dumper says, seeing Lewis get pissed at the commenters is great stuff. Got me dying over here.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, listen, it's Anybody could say what they want. I made the wedding. No one was permitted to do anything for John Sr. when he passed away except me. I brought the body home. Me and Peter did the funeral. We were the pallbearers. I delivered the eulogy. Nobody else. Me. I crept in that crypt and put John's head with Frankie head to head in the crypt the way John wanted it. Me, Louis Kasman, did that. Not you, Zaccaro, not any of you crazies on here. I did all that. No one can ever question my relationship with John Gotti Sr. and Jr. It can never be questioned. Because there'll never be another one. There'll never be another John Gotti Sr. ever. Think about that, Jesse. What greater honor than to deliver a eulogy? What greater honor could you have in life?
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
You know, and that's the reality of it all. So, anything else good on there?
I don't know. I don't see anything. I think we leave it there, Louis, and close it up. You gonna crack that bottle of wine tonight?
Oh my God! You want some, Jess?
Yeah, I need a glass.
Oh my God, that's crazy! I got 8 of these. I could give you one.
Yeah, I need one.
Yeah, I'll give you one. All right, next time I see you, I'm giving you one.
All right, man. That sounds good. We'll leave it there, Louis. And as always, man, I appreciate you doing this with me. And I've enjoyed it.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
We'll be back next week at 7. So,
7 o'clock. We'll do it.
all right. Regards to you and the family.
All right. You too, man. Thanks again.
Okay. Be well.
All right. All right, guys. Thank all of you for joining us tonight. I appreciate all of your comments and all of the people that donated to the channel. I appreciate it. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Be sure to hit that like button on the way out and keep following American Made. I appreciate it.